Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the January meeting of the Penns Manor Board of Education. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Belchick is excused. Dr. Boston?
Here.
Mrs. Eckenrode?
Here.
Mr. Hardesty? Mr. Hardesty?
Here.
Oh, gotcha. Mr. Larch?
Here.
Mr. Polenic?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Here.
Mrs. Tate?
Here.
Mr. Packer?
Here.
Myself, Mr. Johnston? Here. Mrs. Dolges? Mrs. Zalen? Mr. Grimaldi? Mr. Dalton?
Here.
Mr. Gramling? Mr. Saffron?
Here. Okay, presentations. Darren, you want to handle that?
Sure. So first, I do want to take an opportunity to thank each and every one of you for serving as a school board director. January is School Board Director Recognition Month. And so with us this evening, we have Erin Eckert. She's asked to join us from PSBA. So Erin, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can everyone hear me all right?
You can.
Yes.
All right, great. We're off to a good start. Well, good evening, everyone. As was said, my name is Erin Eckert, and I am a Member Services Manager from the Pennsylvania School Boards Association. I'd like to first thank you for including me on this evening's agenda and for your continued membership in PSBA. At the beginning of each year, January is designated as School Director Recognition Month in honor of school board's commitment to our students, schools, and communities. The members of each local school board are a key part of a district's administrative team, making informed decisions that shape public schools and provide a pathway to success for every student. Board service is an unpaid position, and the majority of school directors cite their desire to give back or contribute to public education as the main motivation for their service. On average, school directors devote up to 10 hours per month to meet the challenging responsibilities of board business, including adopting policy, voting on budgets, evaluating school security issues, and reviewing hiring decisions. The impact of the coronavirus pandemic has added an additional challenge to school boards as they determine how to best provide for the needs of students and their families in this new environment. From navigating virtual board meetings, such as this one, to supplying students with needed food and technology during remote instruction, boards are tasked with making critical decisions quickly with the best information available. So at this time, I'd like to thank the board for your dedication to the students of Penns Manor Area School District. Your efforts do not go unnoticed. This time, I'd also like to give a brief update on what's going on at your membership organization here at PSBA. We've hit the ground running in 2021 with professional development and advocacy opportunities available for school directors. Starting in January and running through April, you can tune into the latest digital workshop series, The Essentials of Board Leadership. This complimentary 4-part series corresponds to the 4 foundations of board leadership responsibilities included in the newest PSBA publication, Essentials of Board Leadership. In addition, you can join school directors from across the state at the complimentary All School Directors Monthly Exchange Zoom meetings. These Zoom meetings occur on the 3rd Thursday of each month and are open to all 9 members of the board. Listen in and interact with school directors for cross-district networking and discussions on education hot topics, legislative updates, and advocacy strategies. Looking forward into the spring, March 22nd is PSBA's Spring Virtual Advocacy Day, complimentary to all PSBA members. This day will center on contacting legislators to discuss critical issues affecting public education. Registrants will receive the meeting invitation with a link to the Virtual Advocacy Day website, which contains talking points, links to locate contact information for your legislators, and any additional information you may need. Please join us and make your voices heard through the halls of the Capitol. Registration is open now at www.mypsba.org. In addition to these opportunities, PSBA continues to offer its top quality services to members. This includes some newer offerings, such as our HR services, which includes paperless job descriptions, compensation studies, and a digital superintendent evaluation tool, our crisis communications hotline, which assists districts in the occurrence of a serious incident in the community, and our energy solutions, a program that is strategically designed to help schools reduce energy costs and environmental impact. For additional information on these services, as well as some of the other PSBA offerings, you can check out the PSBA website at www.psba.org. As I conclude my remarks, I'd like to thank you again for allowing me on this evening's agenda, for your continued membership in PSBA, and most importantly, for all that you do for the students of Penns Manor Area School District. Happy School Director Recognition Month, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Aaron, does anyone have any questions for Aaron? Any board member? I do just want to point out to the board that you do have gifts in front of you. One gift is from actually the Penns Manor FFA. So that jacket is from them in recognition of School Board Directors Month. Also in the bag is a gift from Tri-County Transportation along with a card. So on behalf of all those folks, they do want to say thank you to all of you. And we appreciate the time and effort that you put into this district because we truly know how much you get paid, as Mr. Hardesty always indicates to us. We certainly appreciate you coming, your input, your communication, and above all, putting all of our students first. So sincerely, thank you. Working with all of you as a superintendent, as I've said in the past, I am very honored to have a group of individuals who are open to debate, but yet in times to come to conclusion, we do that. So I appreciate having that type of environment. So next on the agenda under presentations, we do have Mrs. DeBella listed. She is not with us this evening, but I do want to recognize her, the gift that the board and administration usually issues to retirees. We will make sure that that is mailed to her. Mrs. DeBella, as you recall, you accepted her resignation for retirement last month. Mrs. DeBella spent 23 and a half years at Penns Manor, serving as the elementary school counselor. So we thank her for her dedicated years and services to our students. Thank you, Mr. Packer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnston. And we're going to move forward with our agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda? Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make the motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Plenick, a second by Mr. Larch.
Are there any questions? Does anybody oppose? Okay, hearing none, the agenda will stand approved as printed. At this time, the board will hear citizens' remarks, if there are any. Okay, we'll move on to the minutes of our meeting, last meeting. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Mrs. Ecken and a second by Mrs. Williams.
Are there any questions? Any oppose? Okay, the minutes are approved. The business report is included in your packet. Can we have a motion to approve the financial report?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by, I think, Mrs. Tate and a second by Mr. Hardesty.
Are there any questions or discussion? Are there any that oppose? Okay, motion carried to accept the business report. At the presentation of bills, the general fund has bills totaling $312,156.16. The athletic fund, $13,333. And the cafeteria fund, $24,776.93. Can we have a motion to authorize payment of the bills?
I'll make
I'll
that
make the
motion.
Motion by Mrs. Williams. Mr. Hardesty, would you like to be the second?
Sure.
Any questions? Are there any board members that oppose? Oh, I'm sorry. Can we have a roll call vote?
Sure. Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Mr. Polenick,
Yes.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Any program updates this evening?
There are none.
Okay, that brings us to our reports, beginning with the superintendent report. Mr. Johnston?
Thank you, Mr. Packer. I just want to update you on some things as we go down through the agenda related to curriculum. Just want to give you an update as to where we are instruction-wise. Currently, we are all in person, except for 49 high school students in Google Classroom, 18 elementary students also in Google Classroom. Also want to report that our last student case at the high school for COVID-19 was December 8th, and we have not had a student case since September 15th in our elementary school. So the last case that we had employee-wise was right at the beginning of Christmas break. So at this time, we have no positive cases that we're dealing with within the district. So that is good news at this point. Moving on, under Budget and Finance, this evening, Act 1 tax resolution to be passed. So let me explain to those of you that are listening this evening as audience members. So our budget process takes a long period of time. In fact, we work with the budget honestly all year long. However, the focus comes on our budget for the next school year, beginning approximately November. But by January, the Board of School Directors, which is a motion on the agenda this evening, must indicate to all the property tax owners in the district on a decision of whether or not they will uphold only considering through the process raising property taxes to the Act 1 index. That does not mean that through the process of building a budget, the taxes will be raised. Tonight, passing the resolution just indicates that this Board of School Directors has agreed to let you know as property tax owners that this is the max that they would consider raising property taxes throughout the budget process. So from now till June, the budget needs to be passed by the school district for the next fiscal year. So it'll be the Budget and Finance along with administration and Mr. Muscatello as the business manager to work through the budget for the next school year. So I do want to point out that tonight's passing of the Act 1 resolution does not indicate that property taxes will be raised to impact the next school year budget. It's just indicating to you that that is the max at this point that this board would consider. So it could be anywhere from not raising taxes to the Act 1 index within that resolution this evening. Also, this evening, we are asking for authorization to participate in cooperative purchasing program with IU28 and IU6 schools. Under Buildings and Grounds this evening, we're asking you to approve the release for a bid for Penns Manor Stadium electric service upgrade. Those of you that are listening as audience members, that is a project currently where there is electrical wires that go on poles from back at the back side of the high school down to the stadium, which feeds the power to the stadium. That project would include removing that above electrical service and placing everything underground, connecting it to our new concession stand and athletic trainer building. So that will go out. That information will be sent out if approved this evening for release on January 18th. The bid opening will be held on February 9th. Also want to let you know as board members that we had discussion last week in regards to guide rails for along 553. That request for guide rails has been denied by PennDOT. So we will go back and work with Buildings and Grounds to come up with a solution for that concern of vehicles leaving the highway. In the most recent situation where the vehicle left the highway, it can cross the parking lot and into the basketball outside courts. This evening, we're also asking you to accept the resignation of Mr. Malosier as athletic director effective June 30th. By June 30th, Mr. Malosier will have served as athletic director for the past 3 years. So we want to thank him for his service in that role. We appreciate everything he has done for us, and he will continue in all of his other roles he's assigned to here in our district. Also this evening, we're asking you to approve, let me first start off by saying we will be having a first reading of policy 2018-218.3. Sorry about that. It's a brand new policy. It involves, since Act 110 of 2020 was signed into law back in November, it's requiring schools to remove any student convicted of sexual assault against another student who may be enrolled in the same school. So that'll be a requirement now. Should that situation happen, that as a school district, we would either expel that student or move that student to another outside placement. That policy will have language reflecting revisions in Policy 103, 252, and also in our Admin Regulation 200. So I just want to point out that when students enroll, they have to indicate at this point whether they've been expelled for using weapons. Now there will be a new line added to reflect the new requirement of Act 110 of 2020. Also, and under new business, we're asking you to approve a couple folks for substitute list. We're also asking you to approve a motion this evening to extend the long-term substitute position that Mr. Snyder has been filling since the beginning of the school year. Also this evening, we're asking you to approve the transfer of Mrs. Prebish from special education teacher to elementary school counselor effective Monday, January 25th. Also asking you to approve this evening Joella Nelson as a new musical director. And those are the agenda items that I wanted to make sure I highlighted and remind you that are on the agenda for your approval. And that is all I have, Mr. Packer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnston. Any old business this evening? None. Mrs. Eckenrode, no negotiation business?
No. Nothing this evening, Mr. Packer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Eckenrode. And Mrs. Williams, nothing for curriculum this evening?
Nothing from me either, Mr. Packer.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Belchick is not here this evening. There's 2 items under budget and finance. The first is Act 1 tax resolution. Can we have a motion to adopt the resolution attached hereto as an enclosure and incorporate it into this motion in its entirety as through more fully set forth herein, by which resolution the district certified that for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, it shall not increase any tax used for the support of the school district by a rate greater than the index of 4.4% as calculated by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And the district will comply with the budgeting procedures set forth in Section 687 of the Public School Code 24 Burton Statute 6-687 as amended for the adoption of its proposed and final budgets. Can we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
I have a motion by Mr. Hardesty and a second by Mrs. Williams.
Are there any questions? A roll call, please.
Dr. Boston?
Yeah.
Mrs. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Mr. Polenick,
No.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And 14B, authorization to participate in the cooperative purchasing program. Can we have a motion to authorize the Penns Manor Area School District to participate in the Aaron Intermediate Unit 28 and Riverview Intermediate Unit 6 cooperative purchasing program?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Eckenrode, a second by Mr. Larch.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Mr. Polenick,
Yes.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to buildings and grounds, Mr. Planick.
Thanks, Mr. Packer. Item A, approve bid release for Penns Manor Stadium electric service upgrade. I'd like to make the motion to approve the advertisement for bids related to the electrical service upgrade to the stadium as presented by the HF Lens Consulting Engineers of Johnstown, PA. See the attachments.
I'll make the motion. Or I'll second.
Actually, I have a motion. Oh, thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Polenick and a second by Mrs. Tate.
Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Boston, Dr. Boston.
Yes.
Got it. Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Polenick,
Yes.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. Packer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Planick. Mr. Larch, Athletic Committee.
Yes, I have an item. I'd like to accept the resignation of Mr. Maloser as athletic director. I'd like to make the motion to accept with regret the resignation of Mr. Jason Maloser as athletic director effective June 30th, 2021.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Larch and a second by Mrs. Williams.
Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Mr. Polenick,
Yes.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to transportation, Mrs. Tate.
I have one item tonight, approved drivers for the 2020-21 school year. I would like to make the motion to approve the following bus drivers and substitutes for Tri-County Transportation for the 2020-2021 school year. Patricia Shakespeare and Dennis Koshka.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Tate and a second by Mrs. Eckenrode.
Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Mr. Polenick,
Yes.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes,
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
that's all I have, Mr. Packer.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Tate. Okay, policies, 18A, approve of revisions to policy. Can we have a motion to approve the revisions to the following policies as presented? All board policies appear on the district's website. Policy 103, policy 252, 200 AR2, policy 610, 611, and then we have the first reading on 218.3. Can we have a motion to approve the revisions?
Second.
Mr. Hardesty, there was no motion. Would you like to make the
Well-
motion?
I'll make the motion then. I just trying to get in between
Sure.
the delay there.
I'll second.
No, I want
Nope.
to.
So I have a motion by Mr. Hardesty and a second by Mrs. Tate.
Are there any questions? Roll call.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Mr. Polenick,
Yes.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, any correspondence?
There's none.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. 20A, approved substitute list for the 2020-21 school year. Can we have a motion to approve the following day-to-day substitutes pending receipt of all current clearances for the 2020-21 school year? Michael Strini, pre-K through 4 and special ed pre-K through 8. Rebecca Frederick, middle level math 4 through 8. Grace Peace as a guest teacher. Can we have a motion?
I have a motion by Mrs. Williams and a second by Mr. Larch.
Are there any questions? Roll call.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Mr. Polenick,
Yes.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 20B, extend a long-term substitute. Can we have a motion to extend the period of employment of Mr. Corbin Snyder as a long-term substitute elementary teacher during the second semester of the 2020-21 school year, which was created by approved leave, and further to approve the compensation in accordance with the district's policy at the rate of $135 per day for the days worked in that position during the second semester of the 2020-21 school year.
I'll make the motion.
Can we have a motion? Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Tate, second by Mrs. Eckenrode.
Questions? Roll call.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Mr. Polenick,
Yes.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 20C, hires school counselor. Can we have a motion to transfer Mrs. Gretchen Prebish from special education teacher to elementary school counselor commencing on Monday, January 25, 2021, at the current step of the collective bargaining agreement between the Penns Manor Area School District and the Penns Manor Education Association, dated August 1, 2019 through July 31, 2022. In addition, Mrs. Prebish will be compensated at her contracted daily rate for up to 10 additional days beyond 185 days. The board authorizes the administration to post and advertise for the special education teacher position left vacant by the transfer.
I'll
Can we
second
have a
it.
motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Larch and I have a second by Mr. Hardesty.
Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Boston,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty,
Yes.
Mr. Larch,
Yes.
Mr. Packer,
Yes.
Mr. Polenick,
Yes.
Mrs. Tate,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 20D, hire musical director. Can we have a motion to hire Joella Nelson as the high school musical director, effective immediately. The salary for the position is $3,847.34 as per the collective bargaining agreement between the Penns Manor Area School District and the Penns Manor Education Association dated August 1, 2019 to July 31, 2022.
I'll make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Mrs. Williams. Mrs. Tate, would you like the second?
Yes.
Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Boston?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty?
Yes.
Mr. Larch?
Yes.
Mr. Packer?
Yes.
Mr. Polenick?
Yes.
Mrs. Tate?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, in the way of student recognition, PMEA Student of the Month for January is Desiree Dwyer. Keystone Degrees, Jeremy Rose, Justina Wagner Smith, and she is from United. Dylan Kitzmiller, also from United, and Bailey Britton from Purchase Line. Our congratulations to all of these students for their accomplishments. Okay, 21, request for field trips. Can we have a motion to approve the field trips that are attached?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Larch and a second by Mr. Hardesty.
Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Boston?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Hardesty?
Yes.
Mr. Larch?
Yes.
Mr. Packer?
Yes.
Mr. Polenick?
Yes.
Mrs. Tate?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, our next committee meeting is February the 4th at 7 p.m. And our next business meeting will be February the 11th, also at 7 p.m. Okay, before we adjourn, we will be meeting in executive session with Mr. Hardesty. Is that correct for an
Yes.
Act 93 issue? Okay.
Mr. Packer.
Yes.
I have one other request. Just asking if the board would consider for the next 2 months moving back to the boardroom. In order for that to happen, we would just need to have a little bit of conversation. The number of folks that are online, if that's going to continue, it will work to move back along with